The Hamburg Uprising was an insurrection during the Weimar Republic in Germany. It was started on the 23rd of October 1923 by one of the most militant sections of the Hamburg District Communist Party, the KP Wasserkante. From a military point of view, the attempt was futile and it was over within 24 hours. Rebels stormed 24 police stations, 17 in Hamburg and 7 in Schleswig-Holstein Province in Prussia. Over 100 people died during the uprising. The exact details of the uprising, as well as the assessment of its impact, are controversial to this day. Background: between 1919 and 1923, the Weimar Republic was in crisis and there were many violent conflicts between left and right-wing elements. The economic situation of the population was rapidly deteriorating and by autumn 1923 hyperinflation was at its peak, which brought gains in popularity to the Communist Party. The occupation of the Ruhr region further radicalized the political disputes. In August 1923, there was a wave of nationwide strikes against Reichschancellor Wilhelm Kuno. At the end of September, the government declared a state of emergency. On the 1st of October, the Black Reichswehr attempted the Küstrin Putsch. 2 weeks later, on the 13th of October, the Reichstag adopted an enabling act that was to facilitate a de jure dictatorship by Chancellor Gustav Stresemann. A demonstration of several thousand unemployed stormed the forbidden zone around the city hall, an action which, during this period, risked death at the hands of the police and right-wing paramilitaries. In Saxony and Thuringia, coalition governments were formed that included the KPD, which saw this as an opportunity to take over. Within the international communist movement, there was discussion of an attempted armed rebellion in Germany. Leon Trotsky and other influential members of the Soviet Politburo and the Comintern advanced the idea, but Heinrich Brandler, head of the KPD, felt it was premature. The exact motives of the small Hamburg group led by Hugo Urbans and Hans Kippenberger, who planned the uprising, remained unknown. The uprising. Late on the 22nd of October 1923, the military leader of the KP Wasserkante received orders via the regional party leadership to begin the rebellion. Only 300 took an active part in the rebellion, although the Hamburg KPD numbered some 14,000 members. On the 23rd of October at 5:00 a.m., they stormed 26 police precincts and took weapons from 17 of them. There was also activity in Altona and the urban district of Stormarn, where the police stations in Schiffbeck and Bramfeld were attacked and weapons taken. In Bad Oldesloe, Ahrensburg and Rahlstedt, train tracks and streets were blockaded. In the town of Bargteheide, insurgents arrested local government leaders and proclaimed the Soviet Republic of Stormarn. In Schiffbeck, where the KPD had support, placards were posted to calm residents and to urge support for the uprising, declaring, "Long live Soviet Germany! Long live the Federation of Soviet States of the World! Long live the World Revolution!" Most of the uprising was quelled in a few hours. In Schiffbeck, it lasted till just past noon. Only in Barmbek, where the KPD had received some 20% of the vote in the previous election, the insurgents were supported by residents, who helped them build barricades and brought them food. The rebels were able to maintain the position during the entire day, despite the continuous exchange of gunfire. At night, however, convinced of the hopelessness of the situation, they sneaked away. The next day, the police launched a major offensive against empty barricades. Aftermath. The uprising claimed at least 100 lives and more than 300 were injured. Of the dead were 17 police officers, 24 rebels and 61 innocent bystanders. There were 1,400 people arrested. In Schiffbeck alone, 191 people were arrested and later, in February 1925, had to be tried at the Altona Landgericht because of unrest in Schiffbeck, where the KPD had garnered 32.4% of the vote in the May 1924 election. This was the largest of the trials against the uprising insurgents. The uprising contributed to the deteriorating relationship between the two working-class political parties. After the uprising, the Social Democratic Party of Germany refused to work with the KPD and even intensified the repression of the KPD by reinforcing the government's positions. Rejection by both the Republic and the SPD strengthened the Communists. Within the KPD, the uprising became a heroic legend about the courageous few rebels facing a hopeless fight. The defeat of the uprising was interpreted as the consequence of too little centralization and too little obedience to party-oriented structures and evidence that these must be increased. Sections of the middle class saw in the uprising the fears of a Bolshevik revolution confirmed and became more attracted to anti-communist politics. As a result, in the 1924 Hamburg Reichstag election, the German National People's Party saw their share of the votes rise from 12% to about 20%, though it quickly dropped back to around 12% in 1928. Films: Der Hamburger Aufstand, October 1923. Documentary: Federal Republic of Germany, 41-minute. Written by Rainer Etz, Gisela Tuchtenhagen, Klaus Wildenhahn. Director: Klaus Wildenhahn. Produced by the German Film and Television Academy Berlin and NDR. Ernst Thälmann, Sohn seiner Klasse. Drama: German Democratic Republic. Director: Gert Maitzig. Bibliography: Bernhard H. Beilin, Leonid G. Babachenko, Deutscher, October 1923. Ein Revolutionsplan und sein Scheitern, Berlin. ISBN 3-351-02557-2. Sergei Tretyakov, Horst Du, Moscow. Drama about the Hamburg Uprising. Moscow. Angelika Voss. Der Hamburger Aufstand. Im October 1923. In Angelika Voss, Ursula Buttner, Hermann Weber, vom Hamburger Aufstandsjahrpolitischen Isolierung, Kommunistische Politik 1923–1933 in Hamburg und im Deutschen Reich, Hamburg 9–54. Louis B. Esther, Der Kommunisten-Putsch 1923. In Jahrbuch für den Kreissturm 73–76. Stadtteil Kollektivrots Winterhude, Der Hamburger Aufstand, Verlauf mit Ostlehren. Hamburg, Berlin, Jürg, Stadtshooter und Revolutionsverfechter. Arbeiterpartien in der Nachkriegszeit, in Ulrich Borcher, W.I.S. in Die Kraft. Arbeiterbewegung in Hamburg von den Anfang an bis 1945. Exhibition Catalog, Museum für Hamburgische Geschichte, VSA Hamburg pp. 103–131. ISBN 3-87975-355-5. Lothar Ordnungspolizei Hamburg. Betrachtungen zu ihrer Geschichte in 1918–1933. Hamburg.